Welcome everybody. In this video I would like to summarize some recent developments regarding the NIO sub-brand Onvo. I've talked about before in my channel about my personal expectations of Onvo, and I want to discuss in this video why I think we may have actually witnessed the bottom now in terms of sales and what I'm expecting going forward. Just as a brief reminder, beginning with the launch of Onvo, I set to tame expectations and that I was, worried that NIO may not be able to scale Onvo as quickly as the expectations out there. And one major argument for that I mentioned was the fact that NIO is launching Onvo as a standalone brand in comparison to, for example, in contrast, I should say, into, for example, what XPeng was doing with its sub-brand Mona, which was launched simply in store of XPeng stores. That's a different story to what has happened with Onvo here, that has its distinct branding, distinct logo, and most importantly, distinct sales channels. And then again, as a brief reminder, when I was the first time witnessing Onvo in person in China and doing some store visits, what struck me and what was kind of my suggestion to NIO is to become more powerful at marketing the product, because despite the fact that I'm not a big Onvo fan personally, about the car, as I said, like in a previous video, I don't think it's super distinct and it's too much close to what the Tesla Model Y is. However, when I witnessed the car in person, I still thought that it's a very well designed and crafted product. So it's an outstanding product and it's a lot of value for the consumer. So there's nothing wrong with the car itself and it should be able to sell. That's my conclusion. You don't have to be a fan of a particular car if you're not one of the main target audience. Still, you could admit that this is, from what it offers, still a good product and should be, popular out there and have demand. But obviously the sales numbers during these seasonal week periods, as of now, January and February, have been quite below. Especially also given the context that NIO management in recent earnings calls have been quite bullish about Q1. And one number that struck me was about the target of around reaching 20K monthly capacity, not deliveries. That's important, but still, deliveries should be somewhere close to that, right? So obviously with that, I don't need to explain that there has been disappointment with some of the reported numbers after actually fulfilling, a really important milestone in December, which I think people quickly forgot about already. But now that we are in the weak phase with Chinese New Year again, obviously there are lots of complaints. But it seems that NIO is recognizing that and working with that, and it's also a recognition that things are not working the way they have been planned. And what I see now is some reactions, like, for example, this one is a stand-up booth that hasn't been there during the time that I visited Onvo stores. Obviously, each of the Onvo stores is individual and different, but this one is now reading that it's a part of the NIO umbrella brand, okay? That it's a new brand, Chenxin Pinpai, but, that it is related to NIO. That's the important part. Before that was not the case. There wasn't any signs like that. And also, if we go into this other photo, if I find it, yes, here we go. A little bit more of a promotional aspect here. Not only this is also mentioning Waylai, so NIO brand on this poster, basically trying to use some of the brand assets that NIO has been building up over the year with heavy investment, right? Using that for Onvo here and explaining to customers that, the credibility, the quality promise, and all of that should also transfer to Onvo. And I mentioned that, during my visits, I was disappointed to see that they're not, more specific on the numbers, like putting a price out there. That seems to have changed, that they're not more aggressive and not telling people more about this car, because frankly, nobody knows Onvo, right? Even not everybody knows about NIO by now, but it's more popular. Now, Another important thing that you can see here is, well, it's a bit too blurry here maybe now, but it's a battery swap station model. During the time that I have been there, they had at least some TV screens showing battery swap in action. But, you know, as I said in my videos, be bold, talk about, for example, free energy, free battery swappings in the beginning. That's always the benefit of the first customers. And, you know, talk about these benefits that you get even on top of a very competitively priced product and very nicely designed product with lots of special features and lots of comfort that even beats the Model Y in my opinion. But now obviously Tesla has launched its Model Y refresh, which in my opinion, just based on the product is, well, I like, to be honest, I like the design. It's also controversial, but I like the new rear lamps of the car. I think it's well done, but overall it's not something surprising or something that beats Onvo as of now in a way. The only part where Tesla has recently surprised a little bit or got out there and started marketing is with its full self-driving in capabilities in China, which I will be talking about in another video and give an update to my last video. I've already talked about that in my Patreon community. But NIO is now jumping on the bandwagon here and also showing how their cars are autonomously driving out of the factory, something that Tesla has also done previously in a stunt. So all of that tells me that NIO is recognizing some of the issues around this standalone strategy that I think was ambitious. As always, NIO seems to be quite idealistic. So funnily, that transfers into the founder name, but also the brand name of Li Auto, Li Xiang, which means ideal in Chinese. So Li Bin is idealistic in many ways, and he will always want to create the perfect brand and product and whatever, but he's certainly going the harder way here instead of, for example, the Xpeng more straightforward way of putting the new brand cars into the same store and therefore having it much easier to sell. NIO has also announced that they are now merging some of the stores for NIO and Onvo in terms of that the sales managers are delivering the same cars and stuff. So that also on the operational side should ease some issues there, and also on the cost side maybe has some implications that it's becoming more cost effective on top of that. But as it is, they chose this standalone brand strategy, which I think just results in a slower ramp up, but over time should also bear more fruits with a clearer diversification and separation of the brands, and also maybe a better user base in each of the brands, and then also translating into better margins ultimately, hopefully. So it's not always bad to go the rougher and tougher way if you can get there in the end, and that's the question. And my outlook is now that, as I said before, I think it's likely that with those changes and also the Model Y launch now behind us and such, and also now getting into the better part of the seasonality, that we may be through the roughest part of the Onvo ramp up, and we may still have a question mark around the March sales, which they still have this 20K milestone out there, which I certainly am watching, because that's kind of been a promise by management in the last earnings call. So I want to take them by the word, and if they are not coming close to the 20K mark, then that would be a disappointment in my book. Now, obviously, the numbers currently look very far away from 20K monthlies, right? So, I know it's been a capacity announcement, so maybe it's not going to be 20K, but maybe let's say 16, 18K, and that would be still a huge jump already from what we've seen in January and February ramp up. But you never know. They may have been sandbagging a bit, doing those changes behind the scenes in order to prepare for a larger ramp in March after people come back from Chinese New Year. Who knows? Or if it's negative, they simply don't have the demand right now, and they won't be able to meet this target and not get to a number close to 60K in total deliveries for Q1, including the NIO brand. That's where I'm looking at. If that's possible, that would be... if they still fulfill that, let it phrase it like this, then that would still be a huge win in my book. I think there is a possibility to that, but I'm not counting on it based on how it looks now. But I'll also give an updated video very soon about the profitability drivers for NIO and Q4 profitability estimations, how that's aligning with my personal expectations for the full year and for the Q4 quarter. And but now we need to see in the short term, right, what's happening here with Onvo, which is one of the important puzzle pieces in this regard. But as I observe here, those changes have been made. I think that's putting the possibility that it's likely the bottom that we've seen, and from here we should see a gradual growth trend again, and hopefully still get a surprise of the close to 20k March Onvo deliveries and hopefully 60k in total for the quarter. That would be outstanding. If not, Liebin and NIO will have some explanation to do in the earnings call. Thanks for watching and see you in my next videos.